So today, we're going to take a journey into the sweltering, dark heart of colonial Calcutta. This was the so-called second city of the British Empire. Our guide for this trip, a young, ambitious Rudyard Kipling. And our map is his collection of sketches, The City of Dreadful Night. But I've got to warn you, this is no tourist's guide. This is a descent. It's an unflinching look at the rot and decay that was just simmering beneath the grand marble facade of the British Raj.
Kipling ends his very first chapter with this chilling line. Think about that. Before we see a single palace, before we meet any of its inhabitants, he tells us what Calcutta feels like, sleeping with a corpse. That image, it just sticks with you, doesn't it? It's not just about death. It's about this intimate, almost claustrophobic closeness to decay. With this one sentence, he defines the city not as a place of imperial life and opportunity, but as a place of profound, inescapable rot. So you have to ask yourself, where is this feeling of death coming from? Well, for Kipling, the assault begins not with what he sees, but with what he smells. Before his eyes can even adjust to the gaslights, his senses are just completely overwhelmed by the city's most dominant and, frankly, inescapable feature.
You know, he even gives it a name, the Big Calcutta Stink, or the BCS for short. For him, this isn't just some background annoyance. No, this is the city's true identity. It's like an invisible poison hanging in the air that makes all the grand buildings and all the claims of magnificence feel like a total lie. This smell is the first and most damning piece of evidence in his case against the city.
And you can tell Kipling is just struggling to even put this smell into words. He calls it faint, sickly, and ultimately indescribable. And what's really crucial here, he insists it's not an Indian smell. Now that's a fascinating colonial distinction, right? It suggests the British brought their own unique form of decay with them. He's reaching for these Gothic metaphors, describing it as the essence of corruption that has rotted for the second time. But the worst part, as you can see, there's just no escape. It seeps into every single corner of the city, from the grandest clubs to the most exclusive avenues.
And to really get a sense of just how bad this was, Kipling, who had traveled all over the empire, declares Calcutta the undisputed champion of stench. Its soul-sickening expansiveness, he says, is worse than Benares or Peshawar, and those were cities known for their own pretty powerful odors. In his view, this isn't the organic smell of life and death. No, this is an atmospheric poison. It's the smell of a civilization literally rotting from its foundations. So this invisible horror, this smell, it kind of sets the stage for the visible hypocrisy of the city itself. When Kipling actually looks at the grand architecture, he doesn't see a city of palaces. He sees something far, far more sinister. On the one hand, you've got this grand idea of the city of palaces. We're talking sumptuous three-storied houses, the absolute finest carriages and horses in the empire, and Englishmen in top hats trying to replicate London in the tropics. But then Kipling pulls back the curtain and reveals the whited sepulchre. That's a biblical reference, by the way, to something that looks beautiful on the outside, but is just full of death and bones inside. Behind the facade are cramped compounds, black, drainage-soaked soil, and the constant lurking threat of diseases like typhoid. It's a city that's pretending to be healthy while being fundamentally sick, right to its very core.
Okay, so if the city itself is this big, beautiful lie, then what about the people who live in it? Kipling, guided by the police, leaves the sanitized British quarters and dives headfirst into the nocturnal world of Calcutta to meet the characters who really thrive in its darkness.
His first encounter, it's with this figure he calls the Dainty Iniquity. The name itself is such a paradox, right? Something delicate and beautiful, but at its heart, fundamentally corrupt. Who could this possibly be? She just appears, like a vision coming out of the oppressive heat, and Kipling is completely captivated. He describes her like a perfect miniature painting that's come to life. She is dripping in jewels, a symbol of immense wealth and this idealized Eastern allure. But she exists in a dark, foul-smelling maze of a house, surrounded by powerful men who act all virtuous during the day, but come here for their unwholesome enjoyment by night. She is the beautiful, gilded cage at the very heart of the city's hypocrisy.
But you know, not everyone in this world is so romanticized. The very next character he meets gives us a totally different and maybe a more honest picture.
Yeah, this is the fat vice, and Kipling is crystal clear here. There is zero romance to this. She represents raw power and commerce. She's not some delicate flower. She's a force of nature, a woman who literally bankrupted a king for her own gain. If the dainty iniquity is the romantic fantasy of the East, the fat vice, well, she's the brutal, transactional reality that underpins the whole colonial project.
Okay, so now the tour goes deeper. I mean, way deeper. Kipling and his guides leave behind this world of wealthy patrons and gilded cages, and they start descending into the grimy traps that are set for the common man, a world where vice has no glamour at all, only desperation.
It all starts with a single half-open door in a sprawling slum. First comes the scent, the unmistakable fragrance of opium, thick and sweet on the human air. Inside, the scene is just surreal. You've got men in a stupor on the floor, and one man, wide awake with a pet mongoose coiled around his neck, acting as a guide. The air is thick, the light is dim, and we get to witness the slow, methodical ritual of preparing the drug.
And then, we get this absolutely haunting final image. The guide, after showing them the whole process, succumbs himself. He just sinks to the floor, pipe in his mouth, surrendering to the drug. And all the while, the mongoose, what Kipling calls the little hairy devil, is chattering in his ear. It's like a lively, demonic observer to its master's self-destruction. The whole scene is just pure gothic horror.
And just like that, we pivot. From that surreal horror, the police lantern swings around and reveals a totally different kind of darkness. Hidden away in a brothel, in a tiny, pitch-black closet, they find a sleeping European sailor.
You can just feel the deep colonial anxiety in Kipling's writing here. He makes a point to note the sailor is a pure-blooded white and has the flush of innocent sleep. He's basically a symbol of European vulnerability, like a child lost in a predatory forest. And the fear isn't just that he'll be robbed, it's that he can be consumed by this place. It's the fear that the white man isn't inherently superior or immune to the city's corruption.
But the journey, it's not over yet. Not even close. The police actually promise to show Kipling the lowest sink of all. After opium dens and dangerous brothels, I mean, what could possibly be worse than what we've already seen?
And what's so unsettling about this final place is how quiet it is. It's a long, winding street. On one side, gaunt, empty houses. On the other, a line of stalls with shamelessly open doors, where women are just waiting in near silence. There's no music, no laughter, just the busy silence of a transaction that's been stripped of all illusion. It's miserable, pitiful, and just terrifyingly calm.
And it's right here, in this quietest, most desolate street, that Kipling sees something that just completely shocks him to his core. He turns to his guide with this sense of utter disbelief and asks, "Isn't that a European woman at that door?"
And yes, she is. This is Mrs. D, the widow of a British soldier. She lives and works right here, shattering the most fundamental taboo of the colonial world, the separation of the races. Her very existence is an affront to the British myth of superiority. And when they confront her about the rumor that she murdered her husband, her response is this chilling, almost ladylike laugh as she says, "'Twasn't proved." She has completely abandoned their world and their rules.
For Kipling, this is the ultimate revelation of the night. It's the key that unlocks everything. He realizes that the authority of the British, the respect for the sahib or master, it's all built on a myth of moral and racial superiority. And here is the living, breathing proof that it's a lie. The local population sees this, they know this, and so the entire colonial project is undermined, not by some grand rebellion, but by its own internal rot. And so in the end, we're left with this question, aren't we? Kipling's journey wasn't just some kind of dark tourism. His descent into the filth and corruption of Calcutta was really a journey into the hypocritical heart of the empire itself. The dreadful night he describes isn't just a place, but a condition, a state of decay that threatens to consume not only the colonized, but the colonizers themselves.